Satellite coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Go, go, go!
Battlefield 6 is now out. After 4 long years since the previous Battlefield game, anticipation is at an all-time high, hype is through the roof, and the expectations are, well, brutal. With 4 teams around the world collectively now known as Battlefield Studios, the question on everyone's mind is simple. Is Battlefield 6 worth the wait? My short answer, absolutely. Set in 2027, the factions are a weakened NATO alliance and a massive private military organization called Pax Armada. This isn't the first time that the series has invented a fictional adversary. In hindsight, Battlefield 2's Middle Eastern coalition was just as far-fetched. The game also features a full campaign, the first in many years. While plagued with issues that will hopefully be addressed, it nonetheless offers a bombastic excursion from grinding the multiplayer. If you missed my review on that, check out my recent videos. I want to make clear that this isn't my full review of Battlefield 6, that will come later. I need more time to properly assess everything. Getting started with Battlefield 6, one of the first things you notice during gameplay, or even in the customization menus, is that the tone is kept grounded. No specialists. Characters are mostly nameless soldiers without any flash. For now at least, cosmetics are simple, and that goes for weapons and vehicles as well. The class system, which is featured prominently, is a mix of Battlefield 3, 4, and 2042. That doesn't mean specialist abilities are present, it's more some of the background mechanics from that game's class system which were introduced later on. Without going into too much detail, the class system is pretty good, setting unique training paths and equipment to make them stand out in their roles. That being said, I'm not sure everyone will agree with the system's implementation, as some changes are a major departure from the Battlefield 4 identities that some players wanted. This includes ammo and health being on one single supply crate for the support class, and swapping the Recon's classic deploy beacon to the assault class. The latter change I fully endorse, and I'll explain my reasoning for it in a future video. Though if you have concerns about either of these, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Almost immediately after loading into the game, it is apparent that massive graphical boundaries were pushed for Battlefield 6. The textures, lighting, assets, and explosions are all top-notch. While some environments are a bit drab, others are visually stunning and really make the game a contender for the best looking in the series, which I would say is true. Future game patches will likely even address areas where issues occur, such as rendering pop-ins at longer distances. Whether in the campaign or on multiplayer, the level design of Battlefield 6 is the most detailed, and dare I say cluttered, of the entire series, and I really don't mean that last bit in a bad way. This is an earth-shattering contrast to the previous game, which had laughably empty terrain and desolate building interiors. Maps are flush with detailing of everyday life. Gardens, vehicles, toys, bathrooms, it just never seems to end. Only in a handful of instances I might argue that they went overboard, cramming certain levels with assets everywhere that there was space. But ultimately, this is a huge step up in quality for the Battlefield series, and one which it seriously needed. I also want to make it clear that I am not lumping all multiplayer maps together here, nor reviewing them in general. I will have a separate video on that soon where I'll go into greater depth and cover every aspect and trait you would expect me to, and I will have many things to address. Some of these you can already catch up on in my short reviews of the 4 beta maps, as well as individual videos on Mirek Valley and Operation Firestorm, which returns from Battlefield 3. What I will say now is that, in general, this is one of the strongest batches of launch maps of a Battlefield title in years. They are not perfect by any means, but they do offer a set of unique environments that players have been clamoring for, namely those featuring urban combat. This has given rise to a bit of controversy for Battlefield 6, since maps that would be considered large by classic title standards are nowhere to be found yet. And I want to stress that yet part because with the news of Season 1 already announced with 2 new maps, one of which looking rather large, it is clear that this criticism will be addressed early. One giant point to make about the season content starting so early, the end of October to be exact, is that this will be the first time in more than a decade that a Battlefield game has had post-launch content released in less than 6 months after launch. This is mind-blowing and a great sign of things to come. They just need to keep up the pace. Of course, this is just the beginning. Official announcements within dev blogs have already hinted at future content, including the return of some of the most requested vehicles, as well as naval combat, which hasn't been seen in full since Battlefield 1. Going back to the level design, in Battlefield 6 you will find maps that cater to those close quarters aficionados, vehicle players, sniper mains, and famed rooftop campers desperately wanting that verticality. Again, each map varies in quality, but the potential for you to enjoy every map your way is present. Something sorely missed in 2042 is back and better than ever in BF6: destruction. While Levolution in the form of Battlefield 4's massive events is present in one instance so far, several other buildings and assets get blown to smithereens in the most glorious ways possible, truly ushering in a new standard for the series. I'd say that this style of destruction has more in common with that of Battlefield 3 and 5 than others, as most buildings do not come crumbling down in their entirety. This is actually a good thing, since in past games where this did occur, it would frequently leave a map devoid of structures or cover midway through a round. Instead, many maps give you that nostalgic hit of the rubble drops on Sen Crossing, now brought into the modern age. With the exception of perhaps the character face models, the visuals are excellent. And what is even more astonishing is how good the performance is. Devs have constantly stated that optimization was a primary goal, and they succeeded here. Frame rates are great even with everything going on, with room to improve if you want to get lost in the settings, and I mean that literally. Going to the options menu is a double-edged sword. Battlefield 6 offers by far the most customizable settings of any game in the franchise, and while this is awesome, the UI could use some tuning. Thankfully, there are creators out there who can help you get the most out of your visuals and gameplay. Speaking of which, the gameplay is the driving factor which makes Battlefield 6 so damn good. With its new kinesthetic weapon system, the gunplay is the best it's ever been in my mind. This doesn't mean that as of launch, significant issues or bugs are not present, but hopefully these will be ironed out quickly. Personally, I enjoy this game's gunplay more than any other since BF4, even if it does have its quirks at the moment. Criticisms are valid here, but at the end of the day, it is a new game with its own way of doing things. I've been through so many Battlefield game launches before, and one of the most difficult things to do is break away from something you know and are good at and get used to something new. The best thing to do is to keep at it and provide the devs with the most logical feedback possible to keep improving it from now on. Weapon balance, however, feels like it's in a good space overall, and with 50 plus weapons to unlock already, this, again, is a significant improvement over recent entries. These weapons are customizable with a detailed new attachment system that doesn't go overboard, but still allows a great deal of depth and flexibility. You can even inspect these weapons in a far more interactive way than ever before, or test them in the integrated firing range. Also returning to much fanfare is the first-person melee animations, and they are both beautiful and brutal. Only a handful of melee options are available at launch, but if these are any indication, future options are going to be awesome. You can even run faster with knives and defibs. The sledgehammer doubles as a destructive tool, allowing players to smash walls and floors to open up new entryways or simply cause chaos. What does struggle right now is the vehicle gameplay, particularly the ground armor. These assets feel hefty, clunky, almost like Battlefield 5 tanks instead of the much lauded Battlefield 3 or BF4 implementations. Other mechanics clearly show the Battlefield 5 influence. Separate, simultaneous tank shells, which allow players to toggle between them for various engagements, are present. Vehicle resupply stations, a controversial feature from that title, also makes a return. While some players may actively enjoy the latter, I'm not a fan. Combining these two mechanics with the slow, lumbering controls just doesn't feel right, yet, at least in the contrast to the speed of everything else. They do feel out of place and out of time. As opposed to the tanks, helicopters and jets, at least in their launch state, feel like an evolution of their classic counterparts. Helicopters have been upgraded with new equipment, and while maneuverability is debatable, their oppressive power is not, giving chopper fanatics something to enjoy. Planes in Battlefield 6 are a whole new beast. Aircraft are broken down into fighter and attack jet categories akin to BF4. These provide clear roles for players and offer counterbalances on maps. Incredibly fast, these jets can now visually pierce the sound barrier, offering some of the coolest visuals found in the series. But the fighters go even one step further. Fielding 5th generation aircraft, thrust vectoring maneuvers are possible. By slamming the brake and pitching a direction, the plane will do some incredible moves at the expense of turn and speed control. No doubt situational, this will certainly provide some of the most insane footage and Battlefield moments in the coming years. And if it wasn't apparent instantly, the jets of Battlefield 6 clearly demonstrate something else which is great. It's audio design. These aircraft roar overhead, and it's impossible not to be impressed. But aside from that, the other vehicles, gunfire, explosions, and destruction has some of the best sound quality in years. Like when Battlefield 3 was launched in 2011, it is so much of a leap forward that it sets a new impressive standard for all subsequent titles to live up to. Game modes are abundant in Battlefield 6, with Conquest, Rush, Breakthrough, Team Deathmatch, Squad Deathmatch, Domination, and King of the Hill returning, along with the new mode of Escalation, providing something for everyone. I personally love the variety of game modes, since I prefer to stay away from modes like Breakthrough because of the grindy nature to it. While getting into these game modes through the UI is problematic to say the least, once in the gameplay itself, most of these modes work well, and some of them have clearly seen backdoor improvements and polish. Of course, if none of these game modes, maps, or features appeal to you, why not try your hand at building your own? Battlefield Portal returns for the first time with hugely expanded capabilities and potential, enough to shake up the franchise and let players and communities create in a way that hasn't been possible since the modding days of the Refractor engine. Although this time Portal doesn't return with any remakes of past Battlefield content, it focuses its efforts where it should have been in the first place, building and editing player experiences. Expanded with new supported tools, programming languages, and utilizing a 3D spatial editor, players can go and modify existing game modes and maps, or create entirely new ones. Maps from other games are already making their way into Portal. While there are limitations, these Portal tools offer incredible potential in the future, especially when greater features are added later on. To answer your question, yes, I will absolutely be modifying Battlefield 6 maps to improve them based on my own inclinations, and yes, I will be doing my best to fully recreate classic Battlefield maps for everyone to enjoy. Is Battlefield 6 a perfect game? Definitely not. The launch state was a bit rougher around the edges than I would have hoped. Bugs and some technical issues are present, but these will get sorted out. Balance issues will of course get addressed. Arguably the biggest problem with the game isn't even the game. It's the UI, which, from the main menu tiles, matchmaking systems, server browser page, options menu, challenges, and progression tasks, are all woefully undercooked. Over time, I hope this gets addressed, but the big picture is that the core Battlefield 6 game, once in, is in a very good spot. Consider that we are tallying up the game's primary issues to weapon balance, menu UI, and a handful of bugs. The major vehicles not spawning in many maps is a wildly unfortunate and unexpected outlier here, as this clearly wasn't a foreseen issue in the days leading up to launch, in which creator reviews and testing was clearly still ongoing. Rather, we are not complaining about performance. We are not talking about constant crashing, nor completely overpowered guns, or vehicles, or game-breaking features, or the lack of a freaking scoreboard. The foundation is sturdy, and that is a massive accomplishment since, in truth, it is the first time since Battlefield 1 that the same could be said, and many years before that to say it again. Unlike recent Battlefield titles, we will almost certainly not be spending the next 3 to 6 months complaining about a broken game. In that same amount of time, post-launch content will have already been streaming in, fixes will have been in place, and Battlefield 6 can take its place as potentially one of the series' greats. Battlefield 6 did not have the all-star launch we all wanted, and that's okay. Debates will continue about features and mechanics and gunplay, and you should continue to provide that feedback to Battlefield Studios. The game's immersive destruction, iconic sandbox play, and now incredible performance will permit a new generation of Battlefield moments. Good times do lay ahead. In a sharp contrast to many previous entries in the series, Battlefield 6 has laid the best foundation for its own success, and arguably has already revitalized a franchise and community eager to see it shine again.